views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Mission Bronx, a show dedicated to highlighting some of the wonderful work being done by the nonprofit organizations in the Bronx. Mission Bronx is a collaboration between BronxNet Television and the Center for Nonprofits at Hostos Community College, and I'm your host, Eileen Newman. Previously on Mission Bronx, we visited Upbeat NYC, a program that provides children of the South Bronx free intensive music training in hopes of bringing about a positive change to their lives. Now, on this episode of Mission Bronx, we'll learn about a program through Hostos Community College that works with the prison population by providing services to help make the transition from incarceration to freedom. We'll find out about all of this and more on this edition of Mission Bronx. Welcome everyone, I'm your host Eileen Newman. Today we're back in the studio to learn about a program that works with the prison population to shorten the time when individuals are released and return to work. Hostos Community College's Division of Continuing Education and Workforce Development provides services that help make the transition from incarceration to freedom a bit smoother. Here now to tell us more about the program and their involvement, please welcome Danielle Allen, Program Director at CUNY Fatherhood Academy at Hostos, and Peter Mertens, Dean for the Division of Continuing Education and Workforce Development at Hostos Community College. Welcome.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you for being here. So
Absolutely.
I do have to say to the audience that I see these people every day. So the Center for Bronx Nonprofits is located in the same office as Peter and Danielle. So I am familiar with the program and invited them to be on because I think the work that they're doing it's so wonderful and so impactful. So Peter, can I ask you to put a context to the work that you're doing with the prison population and talk about the division?
Sure. The division has about 29,000 participants that will conclude this academic year, June 30th, that have gone through some program in some way, shape, or form. A large portion of that is the work that we do with the prison population. And it's important to define the prison population as not just those that are incarcerated, but those that are the formerly incarcerated who are returning to their families, to their homes, and trying to rebuild their lives and find job opportunity, employment, and housing. And Hostos is delighted to be able to play some role in providing them with training so that when they're released or while they're in jail, they're getting that training in order to be able to go into employment as soon as possible after their release from the prison population.
So what are some of the programs that you're providing?
Well, we do programs both on Rikers Island and at the Hunts Point prison barge. And we work with different populations in each of those facilities because they have inmates there for different reasons. Inmates on Rikers Island tend to be there longer. They tend to range from the least violent to the most violent, while the population at the Hunts Point prison barge are there for short-term days up to 100 to 120 days. So the kind of training programs that lead to certification, that lead to employment, have to be tailored to those particular populations. So we have different programs for both prisons. The programs that we do, the actual classes, are a wide range from personal trainer certification to sports nutrition to food handlers to training in basic construction or trade fields, from flagger on a construction site to scaffolding to OSHA training, which is safety training that anyone on a construction site needs, to a little bit more developed in terms of basic training in electricity, plumbing, and carpentry. You know, people with a record sometimes have a limited number of jobs that they can apply for and be hired. So we want to be able to to give the participants as many certifications so that when they go for employment, an employer will look and see this is a well-trained person and willing to give them an entry-level job.
And can I ask you how you got involved in this?
Sure. Approximately 9 years ago, two things happened at the same time. 32BJ, which is a trade union, came to us and wanted to have Hostos be their Bronx training facility. And they were willing to outfit an electrical lab, a carpentry lab, a plumbing lab, a locksmith lab, and provide curriculum. We were delighted with that. At the same time, a Bronx-based CBO called CEO, which works with the formerly incarcerated both men and women, came to us and wanted us to be their Bronx choice of training in providing those skills around plumbing, carpentry. So it was a great thing happening at the same time. So CEO has been working with us for approximately 9 years, sending us about 5 cohorts of about 20 individuals, all formerly incarcerated. They come to us with the high school equivalency diploma that CEO provides. They come to us with a college readiness or school readiness program, because for many of these participants, they haven't been in a classroom in years, or they didn't even finish high school in a traditional setting. So getting them to understand what it's like to participate in a class, have an instructor, sit in a seat, stay there, learn the information, and be able to give it back in order to pass. And we did workshops in plumbing, carpentry, and electricity, as well as tools of the trade, so that when they leave us after a 7-week program, they would go back to CEO, be placed into internships, and then be placed into jobs. What was great about that partnership is the employers that were hiring these formerly incarcerated would come back to us and tell us, this is what you need to improve. They needed less plumbing but more carpentry. They didn't understand the tools. So it's continuous improvement over the last 9 years to really shape a wonderful program. And that was the start of the work that we've done with the prison population that has expanded to working in partnerships with Strive, with Fortune, with CUNY Central, and working directly with the City Department of Corrections.
So how did you make that leap from providing all these services on campus to actually, I know that it's not the easiest thing in the world to be entering the environment like Rikers and setting up a program, so.
Different CBOs that I mentioned came to us and we had a discussion about, you know, the work that we're doing for the formerly incarcerated is great, but what if we were able to do that training earlier while they're in the prison population, and when they're released, cutting down the time from when they're released to the time that they're employed, that they don't have to spend 5 to 7 weeks going through training in order to be employed. They need to find a job immediately, they need to find housing immediately, and by giving them the training while they're incarcerated cuts down on that time, allowing them to get a job and employment as soon as possible. There's certainly some challenges to doing these kinds of programs, and it's just a matter of working with the system, figuring it out, and being creative.
So we have to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. There's more of Mission Bronx right after this.
From the north to the south to the west to the east, we are expanding our services and upgrading technology at Lehman College. And now, Bronxites have an innovative media production facility in the East Bronx at Mercy College in the Hutch Metro Center. The windows on the East Bronx studio, a state-of-the-art control room, media labs for production and training, and other media-capable spaces, training, workforce development, leading-edge technology, and programs that help you share your ideas, your voice, on your channels, locally and globally. Build media and technology skills at BronxNet and build your dreams.
Welcome back. We're here with guest Peter Mertens. and Danielle Allen, learning about how Hostos Community College's Division of Continuing Education and Workforce Development works with the prison population to help their transition from incarceration to freedom. And we were just talking with Peter about the program that Hostos is involved with, and Peter leads in Rikers, but he did say the word challenges. So we're going to hear about a little bit of the challenge of setting up a program in Rikers. And
Sure. We at Hostos look at every challenge as an opportunity to figure it out and make improvements. And there's challenges both to doing the program with the inmates and the bureaucracy of working on Rikers Island, and then there's the challenges of the instructors, their travel time to and from Rikers Island, the wait time to get through security, whether they're even on the list. If there's a lockdown, everything shuts down and you don't even teach. There's the challenges of setting up these kinds of training rooms on Rikers. When we did basic tools, we had to have a storage cabinet where instead of having your 6 wrenches and 7 screwdrivers or whatever the tool may be, we actually, for the guards, had to have outlines of each tool so they could visually look in the storage cabinet and see something was missing from that outline and then know that they had to do a quick search. There's the challenges of the instructors can't have cell phones, they can't have laptops. It's basically them, their handouts, and the inmates. And Danielle can talk a little bit more about the challenges. But the challenges we keep improving upon. We first started with the program with Strive that was inmates who were to be released in 120 days. So we knew they would be released and returning to Strive for the next step, and we know we could give them a pretty hardcore training. And then we're working now with the most violent population on Rikers Island, with the idea being keep them busy, keep them out of trouble, and hopefully the number of violent incidents among inmates would drop, and that would be defined success. But with all of that, there's many challenges that occur on a daily basis, and it's just part of the work we do with that population.
yeah. And Danielle, I want to hear about 2 things. I want to hear about how the fatherhood program that you're directing relates to this, but I also know that you were an instructor.
Yes.
And I want to talk to you about that experience and what a few of the things that we talked about previously about what has to be considered, especially as a woman going into Rikers and teaching in that division. So let's talk about the fatherhood program.
Okay, so at Hostos Community College, I wear 2 hats. One, as the director of the CUNY Fatherhood Academy, where we work with young men between the ages of 18 and 30 who are citizens or fathers or expectant fathers that actually need to obtain their high school equivalency and are interested in going to college or getting vocational training, some hands-on skills such as carpentry, electrician, food handling, as well as security and everything that continuing ed actually offers to help with employment and being able to take care of your family. With this program, we're recruiting right now. I like to say that. We are recruiting. We are starting our 4th cohort of young men September 12th. So right now we are actively recruiting. If you're interested, you're welcome to give us a call. We have at 718-664-2608 as well. So we want a young man. It takes a village, and we need these young men to come into our program. Besides the educational component, we provide parenting classes. So they have like a brotherhood, a barbershop session where they're able to speak candidly about the issues that they're facing as young men, as fathers or expectant fathers, with educational challenges as well as social issues. So that's CUNY Fatherhood Academy. And then on the other side of things, I'm also an instructor, a certified food handler instructor at Rikers Island through
Could you just
Hostos.
explain food handler to people who may not have
Absolutely.
know that
Right. So
phrase?
I usually start off the class by saying, as being a food handler, you have to be careful because what you put in your mouth can kill you, right? So what you eat is very important. So with the food handling class, you actually have an opportunity to learn all about food inspection, food safety from the front end, whether it's working in the kitchen, whether it's working in the back end and working with the different things in the back of the kitchen, as well as just being able to understand the different bacteria that affects food, the timing that takes puts people's health at risk, all the food safety violations. And what's so important about the certificate is that once you obtain it, it never expires, and then you're able to work pretty much anywhere food is served. So
every eating establishment requires employees to have a food handler's certificate. So what it allows is for the formerly incarcerated to be placed into entry-level jobs in a restaurant, be it a dishwasher, be it a busboy, be it even a sous chef. Having that gives them that entry to an entry-level job.
yes, as well as you can demand more pay, right? Because you have the
Right, because you
certificate.
have the certificate.
So that actually helps the guys are very interested when they come into class because it's an opportunity for them to actually bridge that gap. So they know
Right.
when I get out, I have the certificate, it never expires, I could work anywhere, you know.
How long is that program?
The program usually takes about 4 weeks. 4 weeks, and then they're able 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday for 4 weeks,
okay.
and they're able to come into a classroom setting the way it's set up in the Peace Center. They come into a classroom setting, and they're able to understand the concepts, retain the information. We have quizzes, we have exams. We have people let me know we're in school. Yes, we are in school because this is actually going to lead to a certificate where you are employable and you have a leg up amongst everyone else. So the classes are dynamic. Participation is mandatory, so you have a call and response setting where I need to make sure that you understand the information and you're able to move forward.
And so everybody who's in the Fatherhood Academy goes into this?
Well, with the Fatherhood Academy, they have other options,
Okay.
whereas they can go into food certification if they choose to through continuing ed, as well as they have options like security. They have options into the health field if they're interested, the EMT trainers and so forth. So with our fathers, they have they get to see both sides of it, right? Because with our fathers, again, sometimes they have social issues as well. They may have been previously incarcerated or on some type of parole or probation. So they get to see, hey, this is where one path can lead, or you can use education, and this is all we're doing, using education as a pathway to success.
Right. Great. So we're going to have to take another break, but I want to then hear about what it's like for you to go into Rikers and teach.
Excellent.
So don't go anywhere. Mission Bronx is coming right back. Welcome back to Mission Bronx. We're in the studio learning about CEWD, a program at Hostos Community College working with the recently incarcerated to help to shorten the time from when individuals are released and returned to work. And we've been talking with Peter and Danielle was just talking about, was going to begin to talk about actually teaching in Rikers and what some of the challenges were once you get inside there. Peter told us a little bit about the challenges of getting there and wending your way through the bureaucracy per se, but so you're in and you're going to teach. So what are the things you have to think about?
Definitely some of the things I think about is making sure the class, of course, is creative and that they stay, they're able to participate, right? And that they are actually understand the information. So the quizzes, sometimes we create competitions where they have to name themselves, like using the first initial of their name, choose a restaurant, right? And depending on how well you do, it incorporates your letter grade that you get. The same letter grades that we see in restaurants, you'll have a letter grade based on your restaurant or how well you know the information. As if you were a food inspector or food handler so far. Working in there, just as a female, it gets, you know, automatically you think of some of the challenges because you're a female in this setting, you're working with all men and so forth. But what I've experienced is that if the information is presented in an interactive way where the guys can actually participate and they're working with one another and we're having a friendly competition in regards to the restaurants and how much knowledge that the guys actually retained and remember, it makes it an enjoyable learning experience for the individuals as well as myself.
Were there guidelines? Because I remember going into Rikers and there were guidelines about what you wore and what.
They give you a whole list of everything, but just common sense applying that. Make sure, because you're working with a group of men that may not have opportunity to be around females in this kind of setting where you have to call them out, or it's important that you know the person's name and you can refer to them as that so they know this is serious and we want you to take it as serious. This is an opportunity for you to be able to get the skills necessary so you can provide for yourself and your family. Right? And I also let them know the cost of it, right? People are investing in you because we believe in you, because this is a ripple effect. If we are able to obtain these certificates and have the skills necessary, it'll make your transition a lot easier. So once they understand that, yes, this is an opportunity we're going to take advantage of.
And we never know what the class will be based on visiting hours, family hours, if they're meeting with their attorney, if they're meeting with their parole officer, if they had some infraction and can't attend. So attendance can range from 5 to 15 on any given day, and the instructor has to be creative to figure out how to manage to that ongoing changing number of who's there.
So if they don't come to every one, does that mean they don't get the certificate? Is that
it makes it pretty difficult for them to get the certificate, so I let them know attendance is required. However, what is similar to what Peter's saying, things happen. If it's a visiting, yes, they want to go to visits, or they want to be able, if it's infractions or there's a lockdown, things happen. But we give them opportunities to still study. You're in class, you're in school, study. Make sure you know the information. I'll give you a review session, a quiz to make sure you understand and retain the information. And do it in a way in which that is fun. We're already in a punitive system, so let's do it in a way in which you know you're getting something out of it that's only going to benefit you.
So talk about success. What does success mean, and do you have examples of something that you say, this really worked?
Well, I know that some of the organizations we work with define success in different ways. For the program that we did through CUNY Central called Next Steps, success by the City Department of Corrections was reducing the number of violent incidents among inmates as much as possible. We know from this control group that we did, violent incidents among inmates dropped from 4 per inmate to 1 per inmate, a significant drop, especially with that particular population. With the program that we did with Strive, it was based on the number of people who were released and reported back to Strive for job readiness and employment, and then they really based success on the number of people who do not return to prison that went through the program. They quote a number that's between 75 to 79% do not return, which is significant among this population. It's just, success is defined as just daily behavior. They dangle many of our programs as a weekend program. If you're good all week, you get to come to our program. So success is defined in many, many different ways. We define it by, if people ask us to do the program again, we know we did something right, the contract is renewed, and we make improvements.
And Danielle, how about in the fatherhood program? What do you see as a success? So a young man comes to you, enters the program, goes through a lot of the experiences. So when do you say that worked? I don't mean that you can say that worked for the rest of somebody's life, but that you could say, this was the change that the program made.
In regards to the CUNY Fatherhood Academy, we see success as a change in behavior, being able to embrace your child, being able to co-parent or just parent with your significant other or your child's mother, being able to communicate better, being better prepared for employment through our internships, through our different certification programs. We try to approach the student or the father with a holistic approach. This is not just about your HSC, formerly known as GED. This is about the big picture. How are you as a man, as a father, taking care of your family, your child?
I have to say, because I see it every day, so my prejudice is that you two have an incredible passion for what you're doing, and it really, you can feel it. It's out of context of the office and the day-to-day sitting here and listening to you it's really inspiring.
It's never dull.
No,
it's always a new challenge, which is really a new opportunity. In addition to the prison population, we work with veterans. We work with ages as young as 6 years old to 16 through our summer academy and college for kids. We really are a college for the community, in the community, by the community. And we don't want to be known as the little college in the impoverished South Bronx. We want to be known as a higher education institution combination of quality education and training, transforming lives.
And I have to say, I think we should add that this will be the 50th
Yes.
anniversary of Hostos. And when you were talking about community, I mean, I think this sort of fits into what Hostos was formed to do, and that was to service the community. So just quickly, next steps, growth, what?
Sure. In terms of the work that we do with the prison population, it's continuing to expand our partnerships. We just recently partnered in the last year with CCF, College and Community Fellowship. We have young women who were formerly incarcerated entering certificate programs at Hostos, as well as going into degree programs. It's also changing the dialogue that admission officers have, not just at CUNY, but across the country, in terms of what can they say to a formerly incarcerated that's appropriate for careers they can go into. So it's always evolving in the work that we do, and it's all good work.
Yeah. And so we did a show on CCF, so people can look at that too in our on BronxNet. And I'm sorry, but this is, unfortunately, we have to stop now. So that's all the time we have. I want to thank our guests for joining us in the studio and for all of you for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's episode, or you would like to check out past episodes like the one on CCF of Mission Bronx, go to www.bronxnet.tv under Mission Bronx. See you next time for another edition of Mission Bronx.
Everything is here for the taking, my friend. The only one is you, one it must depend. All your dreams is yours, just switch out and take it. Don't play around and do the world is what you make it.
Coming to you from our BronxNet studios, 4 new shows highlighting some of the best of the Bronx has to offer. We sit down with political leaders on In the District and discuss local legislation, events, and issues. See how the community and business come together with The Bronx Now on BronxNet. Nosotros features leaders from our Latino community. Meet those who are moving to make a difference in public service, business, arts, and culture. Looking for new and exciting dining experiences? Then you'll want to savor the Bronx and try new restaurants and eateries that fill the borough with delicious dishes. We have it all, so experience the Bronx in new and fresh ways on BronxNet.